Everybody, Todd McFarlane here. It's my pleasure to have another interview with one of the cover artists that's going to come on and basically be part of our spotlight that we're trying to shine a light onto. Today's featured guest is Mark Spears. And before I sort of introduce him to all of you out there, I just want to say that he isn't necessarily somebody who's a 30-year vet in our industry of comic books, but I would argue it was one of the reasons why I was attracted to his artwork in the first place. So that's part of the conversation that we're going to have here today. So with that, I'd like to introduce you, everybody, to Mark Spears. Hey, Mark, how are you doing today?
Doing good, Todd. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for joining us today. I appreciate it. Now, let's just jump in and sort of, I'll pull the thread a little bit of what I said is that I tell people sometimes that what I do is I sort of look around and I'm looking for interesting takes on the comic book look and or specifically at times with Spawn himself. And so sometimes to get that, you don't go to the same group of people that most of us would expect over and over and over and over. And I remember coming across your artwork and just seeing the sort of the high level of talent that was there. But my introduction to your work, Mark, and excuse me if you've done a million other things for my competitors because I don't pay attention to them. But I was intrigued by your subject matter. A lot of them were like universal monsters. And second, I was also intrigued by your color palette, which was unique, at least for what I was sort of used to doing. So I don't know if you can sort of just walk us through your career a little bit as we sort of get up to where you're at right now, just to give everybody a behind the scenes of who Mark Spears is, and you can touch upon a couple of those questions.
Okay. Well, let's see. Let's go back to that's what I always wanted to do was comic book art. So I started out, 17, started sending off samples. Sent them to I did the Todd McFarlane method. I learned this I learned this from a great source where I said, okay, I'd read and watched videos back in around like 92, 93, where you had said, send off all these samples. What's the worst they can do? So that was my strategy. I sat there and I had a book. I wrote down, I couldn't afford to buy all those comics. So I went to the comic book store and I went
very quickly, Mark. Yeah. How old are you? How old are you at this time?
I'm 17. Okay. I graduated 17, turned 18 that June.
Okay.
So that's when I was going to send my first samples out because I decided I had a few people look at me to go to college for like some art scholarships, but I was like, I want to do comics. I don't want to do just regular art. And I said, I think I can get in this way. So that's what I did. I went to comic book stores. I sat down with a notebook and wrote down every editor and assistant editor of every comic, not just Marvel, not just DC, but Image, whoever existed at that time. I mean, I'm talking even comic book companies that do not exist anymore. Maybe they did right. 2 issues because that's the big boom, right, at that time. So I started doing it where I had my samples, had a 5-page sample, sent it to everybody. Cost me all my money that I had. I started using my money that I got from graduating. People give you money, graduation money. So did that. Got a lot of great response. Well, not great responses. Got a lot of responses back. Form letters. But I was like, oh, this is so cool. It's on DC paper and there's right. Superman and Flash and all that. But all those at that time were form letter responses, right? From submissions editors, even though I would send it to regular editors, that's what happened. Well, but I was told, hey, you keep doing this, get on their nerves a little bit. So come up with some more samples. About 6 months later, I'm going at it again. And I get the whole new list and I send them out. And then it's after a couple years doing this. So now I'm hitting 18, 19, and I'm still at it. I'm getting some responses back that are a little bit better, actually personalized responses.
Yeah. And a lot of those I found had constructive criticism.
Oh, yes. Oh, the good ones out there, the good editors. Chris Duffy, I don't know if you ever remember him. He was at DC at that time on Superboy. And he was the nicest person to me. I'm still friends with him on social media to this day. He started working at Nickelodeon and all this kind of stuff, doing SpongeBob stuff. But one of the nicest people, because he never was rude to me, was the nicest person. Mark, look at this. He would send me pages, 11 by 17 copies of Tom Grummett's work. And would say, study why he did this, right? He was one of the nicest people to do that. Archie Comics sent me a thing, actual originals of someone's work, like 20 pages, but they were original, but they went on 11 by 17 board. It was really weird. It was almost, they were on like 8 by 10, but they were actually, somebody drew those and they were like, study this. And I'm like, dude, I have these somebody really drew this, I was so excited. But then there were some people that weren't nice to me, and I won't mention names, but they were kind of rude. At that time, American Online, was going on. The internet's very new at that time. And I got on American Online, and I remember tracking down some of these editors, right? This is 94, 95. And I would say, please, like an editor for Green Lantern. And I was like, can you tell me what I'm doing wrong? What can I work on? I'll do anything, whatever. And they were like, you'll never make it. You're just not good enough. And I'm like, but can't you tell me what I need to work on so I can be good enough? No, you just don't have it. And I'm like, and then there was a comic book artist that's very, very famous. I won't say his name. And I tracked him down on American Online because he had just did a chat, and I sent him a message and I said, can you please help me?
And just to interrupt, American Online is now affectionately called AOL.
Yeah. And it kind of like Discord. You could chat.
No. But again, the people are like, what is that?
Yeah.
Like
the young guys coming up. Yeah.
It's called AOL, which is still like a boomer thing. But anyway.
Yeah. It was a chat group. You could basically get on and message people. And I asked this person, and this is probably one of the most famous comic book artists at that time. And I was saying, like, it's such a pleasure to meet you, sir. And please, can you just give me some advice, or would you look at my work, and I think I'm going to do this for a career. And he was like, don't do it. Don't be a comic book artist. And I was like, oh. And it was just like kind of shocking to me. I was like, well, and he never saw my stuff. He was like, don't do it. Don't even attempt.
No, the career. He was warding you away from the career, not your
exactly.
Stuff,
he was,
right? Yeah.
Exactly. So I go from then on, and I'm sending in pages. I mean, I was like, I just got to, like you said before, you just got to get one to like you, right? Yeah. Out of the 100 people I send them to, it doesn't matter what the other 99 say. I just got to get one. Yep. All right. The problem was I couldn't get that one. I sent them. Okay. So what happened was I was getting this feedback, and then the feedback started getting less and less. Right. So it was weird. I was sending out all these samples, and I was starting to get less and less feedback from these guys. And a lot of editors move on after a couple of years, right? They're moving on to a different project, moving on to a different company. But one day I'm working at a Service Merchandise, which is a company that's gone now. I don't know if you've ever been there. But I get home, and my dad goes, hey, somebody left a message for you on the answer machine from Marvel Comics. And I'm like, and, Todd, I've heard your story, right, about the first day, when Wanda tells you, hey, so-and-so come. That was my moment, right? And I'm jumping up and down in the kitchen. I go and I hit the thing. Oh, no, it was I hit the message, and it said, This is like Bobby Chase's office,
Oh, yeah, I know Bobby.
right? I'm like, Hulk. I'm going to draw Hulk. This is an amazing. I can't sleep that night. I'm waiting for the next day. So I'm waiting till about 8 o'clock. I'm making sure New York. I'm in Alabama. I'm an hour behind. So I'm waiting for the offices to open up, and I didn't want to seem too eager. So I let 5 minutes pass, after the office is open, and I'm calling, right? And it wasn't Bobby. It was, for some reason, John Lewandowski, if you remember him. He was the submissions editor at Marvel. He did other things. He was calling through that office, and it was him that wanted to talk to me.
Hmm.
And I'm still thinking, oh, this is gonna be great though. Marvel's called me, and he tells me on the phone, he goes, yeah, Mark, look, I've got it here written down. You have sent looks like 20 submissions to us, right? I got a folder right here, Mark, of your stuff. And I'm like, yes, sir. And he's like, stop doing it. Don't send me nothing else. And I'm like, what? And he goes, yeah. He goes, look, this last thing you sent me with these kids in it, you got these kids on this bus and then stuff. And I'm like, yes, sir. And then he goes, you got these McFarlane kids. It looks like McFarlane drew that. It's horrible stuff. Don't look at Todd McFarlane anymore. He can't draw faces. Just don't look at that anymore. And I'm like, because Todd McFarlane's my go-to. That's who I'm looking at. And he goes, your style's bad. And he goes, you'll never be a Todd McFarlane. He goes, don't look at anybody's style. And he goes, your storytelling's not bad, but he goes, you just get on my nerves sending me this stuff. He goes, Mark, he goes, how old are you, Mark? And I think at that time I'm 20, right? 19, something like that. And he goes, I got kids, 16-year-olds that bring me stuff that can run rings around you. He says, you're too old. I'm 19, 20 years old, right? And he goes, you're too old. And I'm just in shock, right? I think I had a tear running out of my face talking to the phone, but I don't act like it, And I'm like, okay. And he goes, look, and he could tell he had kind of went a little bit far with me. And I was just like, not talking much. He goes, look, okay, take a couple years off, then send me something down the road or something. But Mark, you're not cut out for this. You're not going to really be able to do this. You need to look at something else. And got off the phone. And I'm like, I'm just heartbroken, right? Well, I don't even tell anyone that story, but a year later, I'm in a comic book store, and some people are talking about artwork and stuff. And I said, yeah, Marvel called me and told me how bad I sucked and stuff. And they're like,
yeah, I got you get to say, I got a personal phone call for them to tell me that I'm no good, right? That's it. That's an interesting phone call. Hey, make sure you get him on the phone to break his heart in person.
Exactly. I mean, honestly, I thought that's what they did to everybody, right? Because I figured, at some point they're done with you or something. And then everybody I ran across, they were telling me at the comic book store, they were like, Mark, we've never heard of that. Marvel doesn't call you to tell you how bad you suck. And I'm like, well, they did me. This was weird. So yeah, I worked like as a badge of honor for a while. Did it stop me? No, I kept going. So but the problem was, so I'm hitting in my 20s, I'm sending in things and I'm getting nothing back now. No form letters, no any. I think I got on some kind of list like, hey, ignore this kid because he's just, it's just crazy. I even went out at that time and so I was sending my stuff in these, manila envelope things, about for 8x10s or whatever, or pages. I went out and got colored envelopes, bright red. And I was like, I got business cards printed up with bright colors to try to get someone's attention, right? Just to open the envelope. But again, nothing. So then I'm basically just spinning my wheels. No one's, offered me anything. Then Gary Carlson, that did Image Comics Big Bang stuff. He writes me, he sees something on the internet that I had did of like a Shazam Superman fighting, writes me, this is around 98, 99, and says, hey, I would like to get you to do some pages for Ultiman for me for Image Comics. And I was like, this is amazing. Somebody's going to offer me some work. but I don't want you to draw in your style. Can you draw Kurt Swan? And I said, dude, I can draw. You tell me whatever style you want, I'll do it. But, it depressed me a little bit. I wanted to show the world me, but I got to do Kurt Swan, right? But so I do it.
Kurt Swan was sort of the decades of Superman for DC. Just
right. The golden age of, which is great artist. And I enjoy drawing in that style, but it's very dated, right? The way you. And the storytelling, they would only let me do storytelling like was back then at that time. I had to use the same kind of panels and all that. So I do it. It comes out. No one knocks on my door, calls me up saying, hey, we want to get you more work or anything. And I'm like, So I send some of those out to these same people, don't hear anything back, have, samples. So now we're in the 2000s. I get married. I have a child in 2002. And I'm like, it's not going to happen. It's just, I think I've had this dream. It's about gone. So I start in around 2006, so it's 2004 to 2006, eBay becomes a thing. And I start at that time selling drawings on there and people just buying it up like, hey, we love this. So I'm like, okay. I got that got me by for a little while, and then websites start opening up. So this is the time when the internet's getting bigger. There's Comic Art Fans website. I had put up a picture, I think it was of the Green Goblin. And what happened was right after that, I'm checking my email, I'm checking my spam folder for something, and I see this thing that's a week old. And it's from Corgi. This is the people that made like Hot Wheels cars.
Yeah, like diecast.
Yeah, exactly. And this was Tracy Pearson from Corgi. They had got the Marvel license to do statues, and they had already had the license to do Batmobiles and Batman figures at that time, and our figurines. And then she had wrote and said, hey, we're very interested in you coming aboard and being the concept artist for our Marvel line of statues. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then I'm like, this has to be a fake email. That's why I went to spam, right? But I was like, I'm gonna bite. I'll write back and see. And I wrote back and say, hey, I would love to do this if this position is not filled. We can talk. And luckily, even though it was a week late, she goes, hey, yes, Mark, we haven't found someone yet. She calls me up. We're talking, and she said, look, Marvel gave us a whole list of artists that we could use for the concept stuff. And we went through every one of them. We didn't like it. It's not what fit the style that we wanted for the statues. But we saw yours online, and we want to go with you. Marvel said, yeah, he's okay. We can use him. And that's what we want to do. So I'm just cloud nine thinking, wow, someone picked me up there with these Marvel guys to do Marvel stuff. So I'm thinking I've kind of made it, right? I've kind of hit that where I'm breaking in kind of, And so we went from there. Great time there where they liked my stuff so much at Corgi. They put me on Batman stuff. I started doing Batman concept art for all their figurines, all the turnarounds, their statues, their Batmobiles. I started designing some of those, tried to do that. So I'm in this different side business of the comic book business, right? I'm drawing the characters. I'm drawing Joker, Two-Face, Batman, all that on this stuff, but it's not in comic books.
Yeah, no, the thing about, and we've seen these books, you see them usually for video games and for movies, the behind the scenes concept, and it's staggering great artwork that nobody gets to see because it's behind the curtain, right? Yeah,
exactly. Well, okay, so I'm doing the Marvel and DC stuff, and I remember when I was doing the Marvel, I sit there and I said, for the boxing, when you do this, I'll take less money if you'll put my name on the box, like statue designed by Mark Spears, because no one knew who I was at that time.
Yeah.
And it took a little bit back and forth, but they did it. They said, we're not going to cut your pay at all. We're going to put that on the box because we're very happy with what you've given us. So I was like, wow, now people are going to see that, hey, this statue was designed by Mark Spears. So we do that from 2006, 2008. That's going great. We've developed all this merchandise. They even liked it where they started getting me to do Army figures and stuff too when I wasn't doing the Marvel. So I was doing all kinds of stuff at Corgi. Well, Corgi all of a sudden gets bought up by, I want to say it was Masterworks or something. It's the people who was doing like replica lightsabers at that time or something. They merged companies and took the licenses and stuff and was going to do something different. So everybody that I was working with at Corgi was let go or retired. And I'm a freelancer, I'm a contractor, so I'm done. And I'm like, wow, that was a great ride. I made some money and now that's over with. What do I do now? I contacted Hasbro, places like that, other places that did similar stuff. Nothing, not hearing anything back. Well, DC contacts me and says, we liked your Batman stuff was so good. You're a Batman concept artist. We have this thing coming out of these trading cards where people are going to do sketch cards on them and they're going to draw on them. And we want you to highlight that. You're going to be like the artist on this set. And I'm like, that's great. Let's go for it. But the pay was very bad. $5 for a card. But they want me to pencil, ink, and color, not a sketch like you would give like a fan or something. They want about an hour or two's worth of art on that card. But I'm like, I'll do it because, you got to pay your dues, right? You got to get in there somehow. So they said, we're not going to let any artist do more than 200 of these cards, because we want to keep a mix. Well, other people didn't turn theirs in. I turned mine in the fastest. They said, Mark, can you do this other guy's too? Sure, I'll do that. I ended up doing 640 something cards within like a month and a half. Pen was just cramped. Like I couldn't move, crying at night saying, but I said, this is going to be worth it, right? It's going to be worth it. It's going to pay off. They used all my artwork in the advertising. They loved all this stuff. I got a call from whoever Rittenhouse produced the cards the day of release. They called me up, said, hey, Mark, the release is going great. We just saw one of your Joker cards sell for $400 on eBay. And I'm thinking, but I got $5 for that card, right? $5. So that's what happens there. I do some more of these trading cards after that. Then Marvel shows up. Well, we want you to do ours. And so I started doing that stuff, but it wasn't for the money at all because there was no money in it. But it was for I thought, okay, I'm at a point. People are liking my stuff. I'll start getting a bigger resume. So when I submit to Marvel and DC, they'll say, look, he's done all these Marvel and DC projects. Because there was no point where I could say, well, I can get, I thought in my head, there's no way I can get better, really. I mean, I could get better, but not drastically better, right? Where it would be totally different. So I thought that's what I'll do. So I started doing that for a couple of years, the trading cards. Then it got to a point where I was just like, then they started, more and more sets are coming out, more and more people are getting in them. And I said, I'm done with these. So I think I quit doing trading cards around 13 to 15. I started only doing like 5 for this set and stuff. I just got out of it. I started talking to Upper Deck, the sports card place. And I said, let me do regular base cards. Base cards paid a lot more. You get like $100 to $200. And it's printed. It's not a one-on-one. Well, they said, well, can you paint? I said, well, I can. I'm from Alabama, so I was like, well, I tried to do this thing of Nick Saban and the football team and stuff one time. I said, let me show you that. They liked it. Well, they said, well, can you draw Michael Jordan? I'll try. Well, then they said, we want Michael Jordan, though, on every card, and you have to paint it. And I'm like, what? And they were like, yeah, we'll give you $25. But they wanted this painted, again, little bitty sketch card of Michael Jordan likeness. I tried it. I spent 2 or 3 days on one sample because they needed a sample of it first. And I sent it in and they go, oh, that's good. Can you make it more, what was the word? Like more artsy or something. And I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And he goes, more painterly. And I'm like, so you want more paint on it? And I'm going back. I'm revising. I'm putting more and more and stuff. And then they're like, yeah, Mark, I think we're gonna go with someone else, I think, but thanks for that. And then I said, okay. And then they're, well, you want to try hockey? And I was like, I'll try whatever you want me to try. And then they gave me that, but they wanted one of one. They wanted it on like 500 hockey cards painted. I tried it. I did it. And they went, yeah, that's okay, but not as good as we really wanted on that. And then that fell through. So I didn't even get to produce any of those things. I still have the images of them. But then they tried me out for a thing. It was a playing card that they were producing, something Champions or something, where I had to make like a King, Jack, Joker, and all that kind of stuff. So I did that for them, and that was for a base set that went out. And I was like, I guess I'm done with trading cards. That's just done. So then after that, I started messing around with digital stuff. Because back when I worked at Corgi, they wanted everything colored digitally and not colored with markers. And that's all I had been used to coloring. So with color and digital, I started getting better with Photoshop and digital colors. So then I said, well, what if I try to paint something in Photoshop? So I started trying to do that. And then I went, well, that's good enough. Maybe I could try to get work doing magazine covers for horror magazines. So I sent those samples out, and I get nothing back, but I did get one thing back from two people. One guy said it was a big magazine I really wanted to work on. He goes, well, how'd you do this? Is this traditional painting or digital? And I said, digital. Never heard back from him after that. Because there is a bias that some people just hate digital art. They just don't like it. So there's another magazine. It was Diabolic Magazine. Said, hey, we want to talk. And they said, hey, we want you to do some covers for us. We love this stuff. I'm like, man, that's great. And you're going to pay me? You're actually going to pay me money? Because other people was not hardly paying me anything. The bad thing there, so I'm lucky and then I get unlucky. Bad thing is their magazine's not doing as well, and they're going to quit after I did 3 covers for them, the next 3 issues, and they phased out and went online. Right. So because they weren't making as much on their magazine. So I get nominated for those 3 covers for a Rondo Award, though, for best cover of horror magazines. So I'm like, man, okay, people are liking this stuff. Going back to Marvel and DC and all these comic companies, I'm going to start sending them samples. And this time I'm going to do just emails, right? I'm not going to do the traditional things like I used to do. I'm going to send them all these samples, and I'm going to send it to them online. I'll attach, and then I'll put a resume online, do all this stuff. Send all that out, never heard one response back. And I'm like, and it's not that I don't think it's a lot of them are like, I hate this stuff. They get so many of that kind of thing. I'm not standing out. It's a lot of, sometimes it's who if I knew somebody that could say, hey, check out this guy's art, I think I would have got something. But so at that time, that doesn't work. Now we're getting up to years are passing. I'm messing around painting some monsters and stuff. And I was painting around a Spider-Man just to see what I could do. And my son tells me, Dad, why don't you try this in comic books? Like, this Spider-Man's good. And I'm like, I don't think that could be done. I said, Alex Ross does painting. This is digital painting. And I said, it took me like 2 weeks to do that Spider-Man. I said, I don't think I could do that fast enough. There's no way I could do interiors that way. And my son's like, you can do it. Figure it out. And this is like my 11-year-old son at the time. And I'm like, okay, you know what? Maybe this is something, maybe I should switch over from doing traditional pencil and ink to switch over and do painting stuff, because I notice I'm getting more feedback when they see painting, digital paintings, than when I'm doing my, pencil and ink and color. And I said, okay, let's swap a little bit here. So I do that. I start doing more things. I do a lot of sports paintings and stuff to try to do that. I did, like I said, I did some college football. I did did a few monsters, but still I'm not getting any professional work. This is all just either commissions or I'm doing it on my own and trying to sell it. Well, then it was 2020 happens, and it was January 2020, and I'm like, I can't keep doing this. I'm broke. I can't. I've done this long, and I was like, I got to figure out some other way, because I have a family to support. I can't keep doing this. And I said, I was turning to my wife and I said, I think I'm done. And she's like, well, done with what? And I was like, I think I'm done with art. I can't keep doing it. It's turning into a hobby and not a profession now. And I said, I can't do that. And then all of a sudden COVID hits in March, and we're all locked down. I'm like, okay, maybe I should try one more time, but this time do it my way. Go out swinging, right? Aim for the fences. And I said, I'm not going to, I'm going to go all in again, just like when I'm 17. And I said, okay, I'm going to, and if no one likes it, at least I'll like it. Right. So I said, I'm going to do these monsters. So I started doing all this monsters. I did 1 or 2 paintings a day, right, during that March. And people started on Facebook. We're like, man, this is amazing. I love this. I'm like, okay, so if people are liking this, maybe I'm onto something. So I had 12 Instagram followers at that time, and I think 5 of them are family members, right? So I start putting it on Instagram, and slowly, I'm starting to get more followers every day. And then these people would say, hey, this Mark Spears, you go check him out over here. This is some good stuff he's got here. And I'm like, wow, it starts growing. I get up to 1,000 followers and 2,000 followers. And then I'm like, okay, it's around the end of that year. And I said, I got all this artwork now. I got over 100 pieces of artwork that I did for these monsters. I can't sell 100 prints. I don't know how I could do that. But I said I could sell trading cards of these things. I could put them in a trading card set. And I thought, well, if I do that, though, I want to do it where I'm just not saying, oh, here's a trading card of my artwork. I want trading cards like from the 80s and 70s, where there's a pack of gum inside, where it's not about sketch cards anymore. It's about the artwork. It's about the characters. So I said, let me see if I can do this and put them in packs, get a company to produce them in packs with bubble gum and make it look like something from the 70s and 80s. So I did a Kickstarter. Kickstarter did well. We raised $12,000, I think. And I thought that's pretty good for not really advertising and no one knows who I am. Produced the trading cards, put them out there. People loved them. I mean, I only had them on Amazon at that time, myself, my own Amazon account, but that plus people buying them on Instagram and Facebook and seeing them. And then celebrities start getting them, right? And they start passing them out to their friends, say, hey, check out this guy's stuff. That year, I win a Rondo Award for Artist of the Year, just based on all that stuff I put on social media and those cards the very next year. So all this is, it just starts snowballing where people are saying, hey, look at this guy. He's pretty good. I like this stuff. Still not really any job offers. I do. Then I get, last year, a guy I wrote, I saw this movie. It was a Western, what was it called? Old Henry. I don't know if you've ever seen it. And I'm watching it. It came out last year, I believe, year before that. I'm watching it. I'm like, this is awesome. This is a great movie. And I noticed the director's name at the end, and I look him up on Instagram. And I write him a message. I'm like, there's no way he'll respond, right? But he didn't have that many followers, and the movie was getting some buzz. It got some awards and stuff. And he wrote me back. And I told him, I said, man, I love this movie. I stood up and cheered at the end, and I don't want to spoil it for you. You should watch it. But he's like, oh, man, thank you so much, Mark. And he remembered that. And when his studio was doing Spirit Halloween, the movie last year, he goes, hey, Mark, he wrote me and said, hey, let's get on the phone call. And he called me up and said, can you send me some boxes of them cards and whatever you got? They're going to put it in the kid's room who loves monsters and stuff. They're going to put it all over his room in the movie. I'm like, yes, sir, I will. I'll have it to you tomorrow. So I did that, sent him some prints. So in the Spirit Halloween movie, you can see my trading cards. You can see prints all over the wall. And then that was great. When then I didn't know the director at that time. The director reached out and said, hey, Mark, we don't have a big budget or anything, and they already spent all the money on all this stuff, but could you do the poster for us? And I'm like, man, I would love to do the movie poster. That would be a dream to do that. So I did the movie poster, and that got me a little bit more fans out there following me and stuff. Now, so we went from 12 followers on Instagram. Now it's over 30,000. And then with the Spawn stuff, that was my next goal. That was like, okay, I want to do a Spawn cover. I said that's a bucket list thing, right? I want to do a Spawn cover. So when I started putting some Spawn stuff out there on social media, like me drawing Spawn, And my fans went nuts. They loved it. They started saying, Mark's got to do a Spawn cover. This is amazing. I love this stuff. And they kept asking me, when you going to do a Spawn cover, Mark? You got to do. Well, then finally that worked out. I got to do a Spawn cover. I couldn't tell them though, I couldn't, because I wanted to keep it a secret. But they go, man, there would be things on social media. Man, Todd McFarlane's crazy if he doesn't give Mark Spears a Spawn cover. And I'm like, man, I can't say nothing, but I've already done it. I did it last October, but that was great. I have some great fans that make everything possible.
It's interesting, Mark, because I don't recall that, and maybe I did, but I don't recall that when I was looking at your artwork that you had done some Spawn stuff. Sometimes people do, right? But for the most part, as odd as it is, I look past the Spawn stuff. I look at all their other artwork to see what skill they have that isn't my character or whatever. So in my recollection, I don't remember that you did Spawn. I remember all the other cool stuff, which is when I reached out to you, that it was.
Yeah.
I thought your style was fairly unique overall, that I thought it would just be a breath of fresh air coming on the covers of, sort of typical superhero comic book covers, of which I do, right? So.
Right. But yeah, that's the Spawn stuff was really just to trying to prove to myself what would my Spawn look like, if I did a Spawn cover, or so I was trying to do that because everybody had seen me just do monster stuff, right, for the last 2 years. That's what when Thomas had talked to me, Thomas Healy, editor of Spawn, the references that he gave me, like, this is what we love. It was, none of the Spawn stuff. It was like the Phantom that I did, and the Dracula, and the pose, the portraits, and all that.
Usually, not only for yourself but for others, when I'm looking at their artwork, rarely is it every single piece is super awesome, right? Or strikes a chord for me personally. What I do is I look and I go, bam, there it is, bam, bam, bam. And so I try to sort of go back to the people saying, hey, if you can do something that's in this zone, right? Here's your own artwork, right? So I don't want you to do my style, but I want you to do this style. Because as you know, when you look on places like Instagram, Facebook, DeviantArt, sometimes people can have, even your own artwork can have a wide range of a look, right? Depending on what you're getting paid for. I mean, we're artists. We'll do whatever we have to do. So I usually find that it's compelling if I can actually show the artist their own art and say, can you keep it in that sort of zone? And if you can keep it in that zone, it should be kind of cool. So that's what it was there. Because the way that it works for me a lot of times is I get on my phone, and let's say I go to like Instagram, and then all I do, there's the search icon, right?
Yep.
And because of algorithms, it knows that I'm looking for artists, right? So so all I do is I go, bam, I hit that search. I don't have to put any words or anything. I just hit search, and 98% of what comes up are artists, right? And so then, I mean, they're literally doing my work. They're the submission director, if you will. I don't know how or why they're picking who they're picking. But I then click on them. If I click on, let's say, you, underneath your name are 10 other people. I don't know why they're in your group that's there. But if not, I can click back out to the tiling that has literally 100 artists on it. And then I look at what is interesting to me, and I click on it, and then I go deeper into their website to see whether, as you can imagine, they're playing over their head, right? Because everybody there's a lot of those artists. I go, oh my God. And then I go to their website and I go, wow, there's nothing that comes close to that one piece, right? So, the odds,
one, right?
Yeah, the odds are telling me that this isn't consistent, right? I mean, again, I'm a baseball guy. We all swing hard enough every now and then you hit a homer, right? But it's a little bit of dumb luck at that point. So what I usually look for is to get intrigued by the one picture, then I go into it, and then as I scroll through their website, that the majority of what I'm looking at is intriguing to me. That I go, wow, that's cool, that's cool, that's cool, that's cool. So yeah. The 2 out of 3 of everything I'm seeing is cool. So okay, these are good Vegas odds now, right?
Right.
These are people that are showing me that they have a style and that they have consistency, which is all I'm looking for. Because if you got an inconsistency, I don't know what I'm going to get on any given day. And then usually that's where I sort of do my DM or get Thomas to reach out and just sort of say, hey, this is Todd. I created a character named Spawn. I do comic books, and I was just wondering if you're interested. Because I reach out to a lot of people that like have never done any comic book stuff either, right? So you have to sort of explain who you are and what you're doing, and then I'm assuming that they do a search, and then they go, "What's your character? What's he doing?" And then they're like, "Oh, cool." And I find most artists are willing to basically say, "Yeah, I'll try. I've never done it before, but I'll try." Cool, right? But like I said, for you, now that you gave the long story there, it wasn't that you hadn't done superheroes before, but the look to me, I thought was really unique in terms of like your colors. So talk to me a little bit about why you sort of chose to go in that direction with your color palette.
Well, when I started doing monster stuff, there's a guy, if you remember, you might have picked some of those up. There was a famous Monsters of Filmland magazines back when we were growing up.
Yep.
Basil Gogos did most of those covers, the most famous covers, and he did some amazing colors.
Yeah, they were painted too, right?
Yeah, traditional painted.
Yep.
And he did that because he was working when he started doing that because they were black and white movies. So he goes, I had to guess what colors they are, and I want to make it colorful.
Oh yeah.
So raised up on that, I was like, if I'm going to do monsters, I'm going to make them colorful, right? But again, I don't want to copy someone else's, idea, but change it, make it my own, right?
Yep.
I think you're just like when you're doing styles, mash them up together, and that's why when I started doing the colors, I was like, okay, I'm going to do colorful stuff, but not the exact same way he does it, but maybe it will remind you of him a little bit. So that's when, so now I did that with all my artwork because it's very eye-catching. I get a lot of feedback of that. So if I draw Spawn to Spider-Man to whatever it will be, they really got people, they'll stop right when they're scrolling. It's just like a cover, if in a comic book store or a magazine cover, or you're scrolling on Facebook or Instagram, you stop and go, what is that? Because the colors stop you.
Yeah.
So I started doing those colors. And I kind of, I stick with that unless it's something I have to do realistic, but even realistic stuff, I kind of go a little bit, the Mark Spears style is what I called it.
Which is basically the colors of your microphone as we've been talking.
Exactly. That's the.
Hey, Mark, so let me ask you a question. I'm curious. You can wave a wand, right? And you go, hey, I'm gonna wave a wand starting today, moving forward, right? If you could paint your artistic future, what would that be in a perfect world?
Well, I mean,
again, there's no wrong answer, right? You can you can shoot for the moon.
Here's what I would like to do, what I'm trying to do. I would like to continue. I want to do a comic book of my characters, right? The Mark Spears monsters, which I've almost got finished. I'm going to do it. And then I would like to do interiors for a comic book, someone out there, it's a comic book, but the one I want to do, I want to do Spawn. That's my goal. If I just knew someone who at Todd McFarlane Productions, but that's the dream, right? Because that's still for me that's that 17-year-old kid going, I still got something to prove, right?
Yeah.
And I don't want to. Okay, on that though, if it came out and it didn't do well, fans didn't like it, say this is horrible, how could Todd have done this? Why would he give him this job? No, I want it to be one of the best selling comic books of that year, at least that month, so give me something and make it great. I want people to go, there you go. I heard you talk before that you need to have a body of work, right? I don't have that yet, right? I think I can do a body of work with my own comic. I think that there's a future there doing something like that. I think people will like it. They like my style. I think they like my characters. But, that would be a dream to be known as like, well, there's the guy. There's the Spawn guy, And I wouldn't mind doing something with other characters, but I'm in the old, sports reference. I'm like, man, I liked it when Magic Johnson just played with the Lakers, right? You go Lakers to Lakers, right? Kobe, of course he got traded at the beginning, but he was always a Laker. I know there's a lot of this, you jump ship, you go where the job is, but that would be a dream if you know away the one. If I did something on Spawn and that's all I ever did, because that's more my wheelhouse, monsters, right?
Yep.
I love drawing monsters. And you know what got me on drawing monsters was this video of this guy. It was man, I can't remember what it was called, but he's sitting there with this big old violator on the behind him, and he has these kids up there asking questions. And you sit there and you was like, this big monster, you love monsters, right? This is great. This big monster back here. And that violator, that was like, man, monsters are so fun to draw because there are no mistakes, right?
Yep.
You draw
Yep.
Superman's face, man. I could draw Superman's face pretty good, but I always tend to throughout my whole career. I love drawing Batman. I was kind of known as a Batman concept artist. I like drawing Joker better. Why? Because you can't mess up. You can have your version of Joker, but you can add so many lines you want. Yeah. And I love drawing Hulk, right? Because there's so many, just the way you can draw that, and you can change up the style you want on it. But that would be but my dream career would be something like that. Of course, I would also like to have money one day. That would be, so well, then what I want.
I don't know if you saw, we came out with 2 issues that Mike Delmondo painted.
Called, the Unwanted Violence.
Yeah, and again, I thought it was a terrific departure from sort of the classic superhero norms, right? And I'm a big fan of that. When I was collecting myself, I was always, I mean, you might not have seen it in my wall, but I was always intrigued by people who had unique styles to it, right? I mean, mine was way closer to sort of, whatever was sort of popular, hip comic book superhero look. But when I was reading comic books, the ones that I like, the people who make me the most jealous, Mark, at the end of the day, are not artists that I think that if gun to my head, I could do sort of a bad version of them. Right. It's the people whose art style I just go, I could practice that for 50 years and I would never be able to do that. Those are the people that make me jealous of a skill that I know that I will never have, right? No matter how hard I work at it. And so it's why I'm constantly trying to find out people not that draw like me, but actually or look like me or write like me, but people who don't, right? If there's Mark, if I have one frustration, it's that when at times I hire people, they're so nice and they're so excited to be doing the book, and they go back to that sort of 1990s version when they were, first collecting, that they basically paint over my same brushstrokes. And so what I'm always saying is that I think what I'm doing, especially with Spawn, is this 20-foot by 20-foot painting, this big giant canvas. And I'm now 30 years into it, but I've maybe only painted 5 feet. They're still 10, 15 feet below me and 15 feet to the side of me, right? And I'm looking for artists to come and paint on the empty spots, not come and paint on top of where I've been painting and do, Todd knockoff stuff. It's doing stuff that I look at and go, oh my gosh, I've been doing it for 30 years. I wish I could do that. I wish I did that. I wish I thought of that first, right? I want people to email me and go, why didn't you hire that artist long ago? Or Todd, he makes you look like crap. Like, those are, as odd as it is, those are actually good emails for me, because that means I'm like, oh, I'm a good talent scout. I picked out the good talent, and we put them out there. And the ones that are less intriguing to me are the ones that sort of do what I think is a bit of a watered down version of what I've already done, or what Greg Capullo did. Magnificent. Right. So go carve. And again, it's not good for your career to just do a poor man's Greg Capullo either. So, people should be going out in their corner and making their own artistic mark and showing people that you can do it differently. How do I know that? I don't know. I mean, years ago, Neil Adams came along and sort of made his mark on the Green Arrow because he did it differently. And then Frank Miller comes along and does something different on Daredevil. Didn't look like what anybody else was doing. Mike Mignola comes along, does something different. Bill Sienkiewicz comes along, does something different, right? And there's been sort of this ongoing list of artists that just say, nah, I'm not gonna play by the same rules. I'm gonna try something different and stand out. I actually admire the guys who try something different and it doesn't work out, than those who play it safe and sort of say, no, I'm just gonna sort of copy and be sort of the same as everybody else. And so I could give you dozens of names of guys that are not only great people, but their art is very solid. I'd call it solid, but it's not inspiring to me, right? It doesn't make me jealous on any level. And so one of the things that I saw in yours was like, wow, not only the reality of it, because remember, I can't draw faces, right? The art director said.
Right.
And,
Well,
well, it's true. You can do faces way better than me. Some of the realism, and then the color and the composition, I go, no, those are weaknesses on a lot of things that I can do. So let's see what Mark can do. Anyways, you were in my algorithm for some reason, so I'm glad that you were able to get up there. Talk to me about Humans just for a minute, and then we'll wind it down here. You talked about the monsters, and I agree with you to some extent. They're kind of easy. I mean, it seems odd to say that, but you just do
there's
it.
No wrong monster.
Yeah, right. You get to have fun. When you're doing Humans, you have to be right to a certain level, at least to a certain level. So talk to me about the Humans side of it, how easy that may or may not be for you.
Well, Humans, that's not hard for me to do. My version of Humans, they're kind of realistic. It's like, let's talk about the Sin cover, right? That's the only human basically cover, that, because the clown is more not human, that's more monster. So, but okay, when I did Sin,
I'm gonna go get that cover. Keep talking.
Okay, it'll be great. Yes. So when I did Sin, it was tough because I was like, okay, this is the human. How do you make a human look great? Which, and that was another thing on that me and Thomas had talked about. He goes, hey, Mark, on Sin, I want this to be like something that he would have hanging up in his castle, something, right? Something that he looks like he's regal, but he's also, a badass, and he's just like, something like that. So I was like, okay. So I didn't really want to show hands or anything on it. And then I was like, okay, how do I do that? So I played around with the colors on that. And it turned out okay. Now, one thing that Thomas scared me with, the very first conversation I had with him, he goes, hey, we want you to do this. You're going to do 4 covers. And I'm just sitting there, holding my voice in, but I'm like, yes, this is so awesome. And then he goes, one thing though, Mark, uh, Todd doesn't like artificial color. And I'm like, what now? And he goes, he doesn't, Todd doesn't like,
Yeah, yeah, I know,
I know.
no, yeah, I know exactly how that went. Yeah, because he's a good editor. So, but again, I'm going, but this is Mark's style, so we're gonna have to figure out a balance here. So
Yeah, I was worried. The very first thing I did was clown, right? And
yep.
I played it kind of safe, but it was not the clown that's actually got these today. It's not this clown. It was a different, which we'll probably show next week or something. And I was scared to death doing that. Right. I was like, oh man, is he gonna like this? He's not gonna like this. What can I get away with? What should I do? And I want to impress him, but I don't, so I was scared to death doing it. We went through a few revisions. It was done. It was actually like, okay, that's it. And then thankfully, Greg Capullo changed something when y'all did the Spawn Batman, changed something where we go, hey, the little guys look a little bit different now, right? So we're gonna have to redo that. And then I'm sitting there for like a week going, how can I do this? Because I was like, these guys, there wasn't a lot of, because you're talking about making something kind of three-dimensional that's drawn in, and I had saw pencil drawings, right? That weren't really shaded or anything. I'm like, how do I do this? And again, they got to a point where I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it my way and let Todd tell me what doesn't work, right? I'm not going to do your thinking for you and go, Todd might not like this, so I better not do that. I was like, I'm going to do it. And then Todd can come back and say, Mark, get rid of that. Don't like it. Right. And I'm working on this. This is really interesting. I'm working on this. I got the little action figure up there, got all this good stuff going on. And I have this cat here. Right. And my wife walks in and she looks at that and she goes, what's the cat? And I said, I just thought it looked good. And she goes, Todd won't, what if he says no on that? Then you're going to have to redo all that. And I'm like, no. I said, Todd, well, if Todd is Todd that I know from all these years of the interviews and stuff, Todd has one rule. Is it cool?
Yeah.
Does it look cool? And I said, that cat looks cool. And it makes me go, the reason I put it there was, are they going to do something with this? Because, is it animal cruelty? Is it their cat? He's got scratches on him. And I said, it makes you think. It looks neat. I said, I think it should go on there. And not one time did anybody, not you, not Thomas, say anything about the cat. They were, yep, it works.
Yeah, usually, Mark, my comments are less about, hey, the anatomy's right or wrong or whatever. My comments are usually, you're doing the clown and he's got the babies. The babies are just like creepy little psycho pimp heads, right? Like scare the crap out of me, right? Usually it's stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
That my comment isn't like that they're too cute or whatever else. It's just scare me more, right? Creep me out more, right? Make Spawn more of a monster, right? Again, I tell people Spawn has a guy in a costume with a cape is sort of not interesting to me. Why? Because I've done it 1,000 times myself. So when people sort of make him almost more ethereal, ghost-like, monster-like,
yeah,
those are the ones I like, because I just go, oh, now he just seems like he's like a shark, right? Or he's a beast, or he's a creature. Again, then he can go and he's back to being Al Simmons. But when he's Spawn, he's not just dun da 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 like Superman. I'm gonna pull my shirt off, right? I want him to be. I just want him to, like Clint Eastwood in a good movie, can just stand there and look at you, and you go, uh-oh, we're in trouble, right? He doesn't even have to say one word. Like if you watch them in a movie like Gran Torino, he just sits there and he spits and he looks at you, and you go, uh-oh, wouldn't want to meet that guy at 3 o'clock in the morning if I got him mad, right?
Yeah.
So to me, a character like Batman and Spawn, are those guys, right? I mean, Bruce Wayne, Batman is kind of cool, I've always thought, because he just comes home, he's got nothing but money, doesn't care about it. All the girls want to date him, doesn't care about it. And then he just sits at home in the coldness of his big, giant, empty place till about 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. And then he says, Alfred, get me the black costume. It's time to go scare the shit out of him. Right. And there's just something cool about that guy that is just like, they've been scaring us. My job is to scare them back. Right. And go back there. And so characters like the clown and those little clown babies, because again, they first started, Brett Booth started them. And Brett kept doing literally many versions, like these cute little, he actually did cute little guys. If I wanted cute little guys.
Right.
But I kept saying, Brett, no. Like I wanted them to be like if a piranha mixed with a bulldog, right? Just
that's exactly what they look like, piranhas and bulldogs. Mixed.
Yeah, right. Just something. I go, they're not even human to me. They're like little animals, right? And that's what should make them scary too. If you were to see them in person, that they would just go, right? And they'd be nipping at your heels. So you're thinking of them as people. Stop it, right? Stop. And so if you take a look actually at Brett, because I kept bugging him, they kept getting uglier and uglier and uglier, which is okay, because I'll just say, hey, because they actually have the powers on the kids, and I'll just say they actually got more and more distorted, right? So they fell into the hole. But to me, that's the fun of it, right? That's the fun. Like, come on, I don't. And this one, which I thought you did a great job on it, because this was all the things you talked about, Mark. It's not an easy task, right? How do you make an old man seem tough? Just that simple concept. How do you make an old man seem tough? Well,
exactly.
Most of us would go, what? Old man, right? What do you mean? Old man? We can take old men down, right? So now you have to go, all right, who's the character in your head that is that old man that seems sort of tough, right? Comic book wise, Magneto, maybe I'd put in that category. That just seems like you don't want to mess with that old dude, right?
No.
Or again, there's certain characters in movies that you've seen that you go, don't want to mess with that guy, right? So okay, and then putting the fantastic on it so it doesn't look silly, because here's the goal, just so you know, you probably don't even know it. The goal with Sin is to make him my Doc Doom, my Magneto, so that 5 years from now, 10 years from now, he's that guy. He's so imposing. He's so powerful, so important that you just go, man, you don't want to get on that guy's side. Why? Because there should be A-level heroes and there should be A-level bad guys, right? Everybody should have their Dr. Doom or their Joker or their Lex Luthor or whatever it is. You're only as good as your bad guys. And then you have everything in between, right? So does Spider-Man have the Shocker? Of course he does. Is he as cool as the Green Goblin? No way, right? The Green Goblin's way cooler, right? If it was me, Venom would still be a bad guy, right? Because why? It's just
he's better as a bad guy, yeah.
He's just way cooler. He's just way cooler as a bad guy. So but
well, now humans are fun to draw when you do emotions. So there's an emotion on that face. You know, a lot of people probably don't, pick up on it, but there's emotion there. What he's thinking, like
bit of arrogance. There's a bit of arrogance. There's a bit of arrogance there.
Right, exactly. And I do like drawing humans for that. I love emotions. I like hands and faces, right, where they convey, and exactly. And also I learned this from a guy named Todd McFarlane about the planes. Remember when you did that video, I think that was with Stan, and you was like, hey, break it down to where it's, you got planes. So everything looks 3-dimensional. And that's what I did with the hand. So I do that a lot is I will, crank their hand, do all this. I do the Todd McFarlane method.
Well, it's not tough. It's just
that's in my mind,
Okay. Right. The simple rule is that we're drawing on a flat surface, two-dimensional, and we got to create the illusion of 3-dimensional. That's it.
Yeah.
There's the magic. And if you can do that, then your artwork will stand out. And if you can't do that, then you better be a hell of a storyteller, right?
Exactly.
So there are others out there I wouldn't say that somebody like Frank Miller is the best at anatomy, but man, can he tell a story, right? I mean, his stuff, Mike Mignola, same thing. Didn't put a ton of detail on his drawing. That's okay. But can he tell a story? Like, wow, 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 wow. And then every now and then somebody comes along that can, do the muscle structure, do the anatomy, and tell this story. And then those people are sort of a rare breed.
Have you seen my comic pages yet?
Nope.
Man, they can cut this out, but you need to look at them. I sent Thomas, man, because he had asked me, he said, Mark, you had mentioned doing interiors. You got some sample, and I sent him some.
What?
And I put some on Instagram, the comic that I was working on monster stuff. People flipped out. They were like, where can I send my money? And I'm like, dude, Todd, honestly, and I hope they'll cut this out, but you give me a chance to do a comic book. I got 20, 30 years worth of storytelling ability in me that's just oozing to get out. I mean, and I studied storytelling all those years, and I'm like, someone give me a shot. And I tell you right now, it would, if it's in the Spawn, if it's a issue that's, off, on its own, like unwanted violence, it'll do great. I tell you. And look, you said you can't find interior artists. I saw you before say that a million times.
Getting tough.
I was able to do in that style, not that, like, this is what I did for IQ the other day. This is like this is just drawing and coloring, just
on
that's
Discord,
not
on Discord. Yeah.
Yeah. But I can paint just like those covers. I did a test because I don't want a job and say, oh, can't do that. I did 34 pages in a 30-day period. And that's, that's
Wow.
color, that's ready. They're ready to go. They're just ready for the text. But dude, and as a dream project, I don't want to say to everybody else, you write a book, you write my pictures, that's the dream, right? I just want a Todd McFarlane, Mark Spears collaboration. Then we could even do a cover where we're like, I pencil something and you're inking it, or you ink and I paint over it as a alternate cover, right? But and if you would help me, if you would let me help you plot it a little bit, so I can tell you, like, hey, because I know you've done that with Booth before, where I can say, I want to draw this, this, and this, and you go, okay, Mark, I'll let you. You want dinosaurs? I'll figure it out.
Dinosaur.
But I tell you, I think I could. I'll make you proud, man. I think it would be big, and it it also helps me in my career because it gets my name out there more. But I'm telling you, not that I can do it. I can do it, and I can do it, and it'd be beneficial to the
Okay, so here's what we'll do. We'll wind down the interview here because you've given me plenty here, and then I will promise you that I will take a look at those pages next week.
All right. Yeah, they'll show my storytelling, but I mean, I could do better.
Or this week, actually, this week.
You're just looking for storytelling, you'll see it in there.
Yeah.
So
I'll do it.
All right, let's go back. They can edit it back to now and cut that out. But okay, go ahead.
No, that's good. Anyway, all right, Mark, I appreciate you coming on board. It's been a pleasure having you sort of highlighted on those 4 covers that you were able to do for us in your given month. And hopefully, as we talked about, maybe you and I can butt heads again, and maybe collaborate on something down in the future. So all the best of luck. All the best of luck to you. It was an inspiring story. I never got a phone call to tell me that they didn't like me, so they just threw it in the garbage, right? So it was just way easier on my heart at that point. So, but that's a unique story. So I'm going to remember that one for a long time. But the upside is that you, like so many others, just decided that you were going to keep your head down and keep going, right? So better, bigger and better for you. So here we go.
All right. I appreciate everything.
All right. You be good, Mark. Thanks.
You too. Thank you.